Hey, this is Tiger. Welcome to my stream. Hey AJ, thank you for your good evening. And we are here to pick up on our, very short series of trains from Derby. Second part, talking about the Electrostar and the Aventra trains. City Radar, Briden, this is short for Dobriden, huh? I wish you a very good day, too. Now that Starapaka Liberec is announced to arrive soon, huh? And there is already a signaling guide out. Oh yeah, have you seen that cursed picture of light signals? No, actually I did not really look at it properly. Was it so bad? I love toasters. Hello, thank you for your first time appearance on the chat. Was it so bad? I just ran through this signaling guide document. And that's it. Well, why am I here at Derby? Because so many vehicles that run around in Great Britain nowadays, be it Turbostars, be it Electrostars, be it Aventras, are from Derby and come from Litchurch Lane Works that are located about this area. Unfortunately, I cannot fly there. But a bit south to the station, you should actually get to the works. No, the dog decided to redecorate. Alright, so if you hear something in the background, that's that. Hey Tiger, Lofty, thank you for subscribing again, currently on the 18-month streak. Thank you so much. And I love toasters, thank you for following. Can you do an intercity direct service to somewhere in this stream too? I don't think that this will fit with the topic of the stream here, unfortunately, because I want to talk about Electrostars and Aventra trains, and we cover a lot of different things with this. But an intercity direct service is not among this. Spectre, hey, but definitely in a different stream. So, I'm a bit distracted because there is so much noise in the background, because Kara, the dog, is redecorating everything. But we will have to take care of this later. What I actually wanted to do is to dip into the London Overground Mildmay Line that we have in the game for quite some time, and we are waiting for the Richmond extension. The Intercity Direct is a Dutch train from Amsterdam Central to Brussels. I would love to do that, but I am afraid I don't have a DLC in Trains and World that can cover that. Or maybe in the Dutch route, it is part of it. Koplopers. But Amsterdam to Brussels, I don't think that we come to Zwolle Groningen, can we? As soon as there is anything like this in the game, I would be more than happy to provide. But today, we stick to Great Britain. And I wanted to show off this train first, the Class 378 Transport for London train. That is also an Electrostar train, just like the 377 and the 387 and the 375 that we have so often in the game. Maybe next stream a Dutch service. I will keep it in mind. We have not touched the Dutch route in a while. Maybe there will be some more Dutch content in future, but we can maybe get back to a Dutch service next time. Let's see. I will definitely keep it in mind. Now I'm going to do a service from Richmond to Stratford on this Mildmay line. The Richmond extension is not yet there. They are talking about it all the time and it is announced. I did a Dutch service before, yeah. And nothing interesting to talk about the CD radar. Yeah. I did 4 videos about Dutch content. Koploper, yeah, with the Koploper. Also with the calf crane. And you can find them on the YouTube channel. Bikeaway's YouTube channel. And here, CD radar. Great. Thank you for linking the off-black site where everything is supposed to be collected together. So we will have to start at Watford Junction. And what is so nice at the Mildmay line is that we are actually ticking off so many places that we know from other lines and stations in the game from a different perspective. We're crossing the West Coast main line here at not Watford, Willesden Junction. And then we're passing St. Pancras, so we know from Southeast High Speed. We're passing King's Cross, where the Asumas typically start, and then we're going to Stratford, where we typically know from the international part of the station, from Southeast High Speed. And how this all connects together, maybe we should look at this in a different stream, but today just let's do the run from here. Interior designer of this moquette. It's probably gotten some brain damage. Doors. As a certified Dutch person, I love toasters can say that the Dutch trains are always late. Well, I guess most people can say that about their native railways. Did I forget anything? Turn on the GSMR. We have monitors for CCTV. For driver-only operation, obviously they don't work in the game. Ah, there is a CD radar. I've only been there once and almost all the trains were fine. And welcome to Germany, says Spectre. So, we're actually sitting here on the top of the West Coast main line, crossing it. This is the way to Richmond, and we're now going the way to Stratford. Looks very familiar. If you're used to the 377 cabs. Is your honk redeem? We're limited to 20 until we're out of this station area here. Moina Kora, I think my Twitch is broke. I hope it is not. We missed you on Wednesday, I think. I hope your Twitch was not broke then and it was just that you had to do something more important than have a sneak peek into the East Coast, a remaster. We'll see if we get this locomotive at some point in the game. The NS 1200. Now at the moment everyone is hyped about the Czech route. And I have to look at what is so bad about the signaling picture for the Stara Parka route. Here's some of the Capitalstars, as those trains are called. Are sitting in the siding. In Accra Wednesday I was busy. Streams under the week are difficult for me to watch. The more I enjoy the Sunday streams. I can totally understand that. Low adhesion area. And a lot of stops are on the London Overground lines, obviously. This is why we have trains that can handle a lot of passenger traffic, fast in, fast out. If we look into our train, we have side seating, longitudinal siding, just like on an underground train, to get a lot of people in. Also the doors are big, so that people get in and out fast, and we don't have to dwell a lot at the stations. Driver only equipment, so that we don't need a guard. And this is the scope for the trains that run on those lines. In former times, this Capitalstar train, and nowadays the Aventra trains in all its different variations. Oh, there is a lot of stuff happening on the chat. And Lottie says, it's funny to me to see Germans greet each other with terms like moin, when if I was to use the Derby greeting of "I up me dog," I'd get looked at like I grew a second head. So is this what you say at Derby? I up me dog. And Sidria says, let me know if you find out what is cursed about it. I will. I am not autistic, says I up the duck, me duck. And the duck is cognate with the Duke here. So it says, I up me Duke. That sounds nice. Look. Duck said like the bird, I see. Especially in southern Germany, people also say servus, like the Latin slave, yeah. That is in southern Germany and in Austria quite common. Especially in the more rural areas. I had to laugh so hard when we once were at Comic-Con and we met those people who were dressed up like stormtroopers from Star Wars in their white plastic uniforms with their helmets and in the helmets they had those distortion devices so that they could talk like burr, 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 burr. And they were greeting us when going inside with Servus. Whether I know the Death Star canteen video with the Lego bricks? No, I'm afraid I don't. West Hampstead we are approaching. And maybe this is some time to look at the map where we are actually running about. This is where we started here at Willesden Junction, and this is the West Coast Main Line. This is the way to London Euston. This is the way to Milton Keynes. So this is part of a DLC that we have in the game. This part here is actually part of the Great Western Express line from Paddington running out, not active here, but we have all the rails here, and you can see how the West Coast Main Line and the line from Paddington are almost touching here. We have this cemetery in between, Kensal Green Cemetery or whatever it is called, with the Isambard Kingdom Brunel Memorial also. And yeah, we're crossing more lines that are not in the game. Also the Chiltern Main Line that we discussed with the British Automatic Train Protection, where the second project was run until a couple of years ago, that connects to Marylebone, London Marylebone station here. And this is London St Pancras that we know from the Jeff Lynne services, South Eastern High Speed. It goes here into the tunnel and then more or less runs underneath until it meets again at Stratford over here, where we only have the normal, not international part of Stratford, and the other part is more or less going somewhere underneath here. This is King's Cross with the East Coast Main Line starting. So we are actually cutting a lot of interesting lines here. This is another London Overground line that is not in the game so far. And I forgot what that line here is. Maybe that is the one to London Liverpool Street coming in from the Anglia trains. Have fun with the trains, says I Love Toaster. All right. Thank you for talking to us. So this line actually is cutting all the interesting parts in a 90-degree angle, more or less, and connecting all the things that we have around London to some kind of a network. How great would it be to have all this stuff interconnected like it is in SimRail, right? Where you can actually go around in a circle. And now this line is supposed to be extended to Richmond as it is in real life. The other branch that goes to Clapham Junction is not to be reproduced as far as I know. That would be cool because that connects to the Brighton Main Line that starts at Victoria, what is about there, and then another London Overground line is touching Clapham Junction from the east. So we could get around what Charing Cross, Waterloo, what is here then Cannon Street, Fenchurch Street, or the other stations in London that we do not have so far in the game. And the Bakerloo line cutting more or less like this through the whole cake. Yeah, I love maps, you know that, and I love networks And I love everything that connects the dots together. Oh, and by the way, today it is gonna be me who breaks the topic. The Impulse 2 is great train. Alright. Oh, now I'm almost late for my station. It's a great train until you try to get it serviced. The Impulse 2. Okay. Unfortunately, we don't have to get it serviced in the game. I bought it together with the Woolwich Hub, or what is it called? Woolwich Junction. And not the DRM incidents as ASR2. Yeah, the Nevak Impulse 2 has DRM, Digital Rights Management. That is the thing that we discussed earlier, right? That this train can produce an artificial error so that it needs to be serviced by personnel that has the software from Nevak. And that is getting all this blowing everything out of proportion. I still need to figure out what all the diagnostics page mean. Oh, I see. So, Finchley Road and Frognall. And the route is also pretty cool. They're talking about Simrail again. Well, I bought it. Obviously, I bought both DLCs, but I did not fire it up. I was super busy this week with real life work all weekend. So I just stopped for being able to stream. So I'm still looking forward to play it. And 15 euros for both. How did you manage to get 15 euros as a bundle and then with the 10% off for owning the rest? Yeah. It is a lot of value for money. How do you like these stop markers, huh? So that you can actually not miss the stop marker. Now we're going into a tunnel. With another Capitalstar coming from the opposite direction. Inspector says I can still miss them, no problem at all. Alright. Well, so can I if I'm reading the chat. Hampstead Heath. Hampstead Heath is always a enchanted location for me. I remember being in London around Christmas once and walking around Hampstead Heath with snow everywhere. That was really, really nice. And ASR2, apparently I've only played 50 hours in the last 2 weeks on Simrail. Well, I have played 0 hours on Simrail during the last weeks. But we will do this again. Open the doors, maybe. Hampstead Heath. What is nice in the London Overground DLCs is that we have the red double-decker London buses running around instead of the yellow school buses everywhere. What is not so nice about this route, in my opinion, is that you don't really see the typical trains on all the routes that we cross. Now we're going to stop at Gospel Oak, where, as we all know, the other DLC for London Overground, the Barking Riverside, Gospel Oak, Goblin, Suffragette line starts. And if I remember correctly, we have to slow down to 20 before we hit Gospel Oak. Arterio says, I heard Czech route is coming soon. Yes, so they say. And I will do my own signaling guide and discussion, so that people don't have to rely on what is out there so far, but they will anyway. And see, right now you could make the London part of your awesome route coverage map. Yes, I think we will do this with the London Overground lines, with the Underground lines, and with all the London stations, not airports, and how all the important lines. I forgot the Mildmay Line, I think, when I was discussing the lines on the map. This one we also cross on our route here. And then we can actually see how London is sitting in the railway net, like the spider in the middle. Which is funny, because one of the trains says Arterio has the same radio and speedo as the CD163 from Simwell, and the other one has the same speedo as all the old trains from Simwell. Inspector says Gospel Oak is in that route as well. Yes. It's actually nice, because out of the 6 London Overground lines, we have 3 in the game already. Not completely. The Mildmay Line, not completely. But we have the Gospel, and they all interconnect. So you could actually start riding the Lioness Line at Watford Junction, Willesden Junction, get on the Mildmay Line here, travel to Gospel Oak, and then go to Barking Riverside. You know, standalones with tick 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 speedo. This one that always jerks around so much that you never know what speed it is actually willing to indicate. $80 give or take 5, exactly. Yeah, we're talking about the same thing, I guess. Kentish Town West. Why am I so fast? Am I running downhill here? You can almost land your train like on a helipad. The Impulse 2 reminds ISRTU of the UK trains. Now, I guess between those modernish trains, there are many similarities. You want to be able to build those trains fast. You want to be modular so that you can adapt them to what the operators need. Like this train, you can see it does not have a gangway cap. We cannot connect more of those trains and the people cannot walk through it. This actually here is a detrainment device so that we can get people out of the train in the tunnel in case we get stuck in a tunnel. So for trains for longer routes, you want to have toilets and air conditioning. Trains for short routes, you don't necessarily need toilets or air conditioning, but you want to have a lot of room so that people don't get stuck and take forever to get in and out of the train at stations. You want to have wide doors so that people can get in and out in a jiffy, and you can go on and not dwell at the station so much. I think they got this busy, crowded North London area quite nicely. Camden Road. Here people in the cafe on the top of this house. As it has the typical British beep beep of the closing and opening doors. Ah, that's what you mean. But funny, since it doesn't sell to Britain, it's a Polish manufactured EMU. I might say it certainly isn't step 3, no level boarding, and now the funny thing is that it was on the 750 class when they gave the new computers and digital screens. It showed the speed on the screen more accurately than the ticking time bomb. But because they weren't yet approved by the authorities, drivers had to follow the ticking speed and not the digital one. And there's 30 centimeters in difference. For the doors, well... Ah, no, for the steps. So I have to watch out that I don't confuse myself having 3 conversations at the same time. About the Impulse 2, about the speed clocks, and about my doors here on my Capitalstar. They are, when they are closing, not closing.
If you see anything suspicious, please call a member of staff or the police.
Completely in one line, like the plug doors on the Electrostars. So this is not completely aerodynamic. But on the other hand, we don't need to be completely aerodynamic because we are not going that fast. Fastest that we're going on this route here is 45 miles per hour. Now we're going out of the 20, not yet. We still have to stick to 20 until we're completely out. That's why you are aware to mind the gap like that wasn't there. Oops, what did I do? Not pay attention at any rate. Now we will be late at Caledonian Road and Barnsbury. Here's the 40 sign so that we can actually accelerate as soon as we passed it. And see, the radar says if I could put the chat on one of those blank screens on the right, maybe that would help to not lose concentration, maybe. We need this stuff for the streamer-only operation of this train. So here we are running parallel with, what is this, the Windward line or the Wealdstone line? I never know. But I will when we're doing a stream about all the London Overground lines. One thing I like about British railway lines and stations is that many of them are named after pubs. This Spectre. Well, we have that in Germany as well. Die edle Krone, Radebeul Weintraube, Berlin Gesundbrunnen. The last one I would not vouch for it. Actually, in German we have a lot of pubs that are named after stations. And see the reasons I like the variety of AI services on this map, especially Elizabeth Line with custom livery, but still slightly different class. We have that. I actually thought we should have much more of it at Stratford. I see. We will see when we get there. At the moment, come on. We already passed St. Pancras and King's Cross on this line where we were running parallel with the other one. We did not see it, but on the right, St. Pancras and King's Cross was looming, and now we're getting to Stratford. Passing the ArcelorMittal Orbit Tower. Cannonbury. Oh, we're still in the 40 limit here. Just increases to 45 later. So now we are so early that we still have to wait a bit. Cannonbury. Next stop, Niconbury. There is no Nikon Street station at London. Must be something else then. Dalston, Kingsland. Jerks around quite a lot here on this line. Good thing that we don't go faster than 40 miles. Here's the increase to 45. There's a cat. Bob is his name. One day dogs and trains in the world, yeah. Well. But somehow cats and train enthusiasts go somehow better together than dogs, horses and train enthusiasts for whatever reason. Or maybe it's just the train simulator developers that are more connected with cats than with dogs. Hackney Central. Oops. Unfortunately. I put the lever into emergency. Hoomer Town. I wonder who will not think of the Simpsons when approaching this station.
Mind's the gap between the train and the platform. Mind's the gap.
Interesting. Well, I'm so early now that I'm actually losing points. Maybe this is because we're actually wasting energy if we're going so fast and we're early. Clickety-clack, you can actually hear him type. Hackney Wick is, I think, already the last stop before we get to Stratford. We have to slow down for it. You can see already the orbit tower. With all the facilities for the 2012 Olympics. Especially the stadium. Here's the 25. Forgot to turn on the disclaimer, by the way. But you know that by now that I got the DLCs for free from Dovetail Games. For being an ambassador. Oh, did I not lock my doors? I thought they were already locked. Now they are. Limit went back to 40. But will drop to 20 again and 15 later even when we enter Stratford. See? Actually quite soon already. Then we have to slow down to 20. At the signal here. Somewhere over there is the ditch with the international part of Stratford. Approaching a red signal before we can enter the station. Fortunately, we can't see it when approaching it like this. Now it's cleared to single yellow and sending us to platform number 1. Stadium and the orbit tower. Ah, and now illicit trains. Now I know what you meant, City Radar. AI trains with a different livery here. Actually, with 2 different liveries. I guess here in the game it is all Aventra 710 trains. To stand in for the various trains that are operating here in real life. And here we are. We're ready to go back. Whoosh. There goes my camera. Can have a bit of look around. Actually called a 720, that is nice. Two stock is here too. Now all the list trains left, huh? We are actually really using a lot of AI here. Nice. Well, the 720, we will meet him again. Runs good even with the AI trains. Yeah, that's true. Well, upgrading my GPU actually did a lot of good. And then it is probably not as busy here as it is on things like Frankfurt or Birmingham New Street. Yeah. I will take the 720 here as the hinge to go into the presentation. And pick up where we left last Sunday. And the only thing that remains is the little stutter when opening the doors, yes. And especially when you have the, this is connected, the door closing is connected with the script somehow updating. And that always does this stuttering. That has been criticized a lot and still not fixed. Okay. Presentation is already on the screen. Last time we looked at how the Swedish and Swiss companies ASEA and Brondsbury merged together to RBB, and how RBB then bought in 1989 and 1992 the British Rail Engineering Limited, that included especially the Litchurch Lane Works that we looked at the beginning of the stream. Later then the Daimler-Benz AG made a joint venture with RBB called Adtrans that then ran the production at Litchurch Lane. After Daimler-Benz had his marriage made in heaven with the Chrysler Corporation, they bought out RBB and later then sold the Adtrans, then called Daimler Chrysler Rail System, to Bombardier, who got in financial troubles later, so that they had to sell their stuff to Alstom, who could not merge with Siemens Mobility, so that starting in the year 2021, Alstom is running the works at Litchurch Lane. And we talked about what trains they built there, starting with the knowledge that they acquired in the works in Holgate Road, or at Holgate Road in York, where they built the network of turbos. The first train that Adtrans built in Derby then was the 168 Clubman, what is more or less the ancestor of both the Turbostar and the Electrostar line. The Turbostar line we looked at last week. The stroke 1, stroke 2, stroke 3 subclasses of the Clubman are already considered Turbostar trains, more or less. And yeah, I will run through the different Turbostars a lot because we discussed them when we had the new DLC on the table, where we got the 171 stroke 7 and stroke 8 trains together with the East Coastway remaster. And now we can actually look at the electric trains, the Electrostars, also starting more or less from the same core system of the Clubman. What makes it so nice to have those trains is that they can be built quite effectively out of extruded aluminum panels put together to form the vehicle chassis, more or less put on one piece that makes out the roof. That is more or less the same in all the trains, whether they have a pantograph or not. Even the trains that don't have a pantograph have more or less the little space where the pantograph can be fitted if they need one at some point. The caps are bolted on both ends, depending on what cap you need, with more or less a fiberglass piece. And all the electric stuff or the diesel stuff is put into rafts that is screwed to the bottom of the trains. And so you have your train, have a very versatile and fast to build train concept. And so you can build trains that fit the needs of your customer for their line. So the first Electrostar that was built was a 357 with tight lock couplers, and it is, to my knowledge, the only class of Electrostars that kept those tight lock couplers that are, well, automated Jenny couplers, like the American trains use them a lot, knuckle couplers, but an automatic version of that. And the 357 still have them. They are all running now for C2C, war is a line that goes from London to the east to Shoeburyness that we had in the military cargo DLC at one time, because there is a Ministry of Defense installation, and this is where those trains go. I think they start at Fenchurch Street in London, and we don't have any of them in the game. First Electrostars, and at the same time the first trains that were throughout the whole family fitted with regenerative braking after, I think it was this class, where they took one train set actually to the Czech Republic and had it tested at the Velim test course in the Czech Republic, and for regenerative braking, and after that they fitted the whole class with it. Still to come into Transom World. What already is in Transom World, starting with Southeastern High Speed, is the class 375, which is the bread and butter Electrostar for Southeastern. They started out with tight lock couplers, but during their lifetime had them changed throughout the whole fleet to Delner couplers, unlike the 357 that take overhead catenary electricity, 25k volts. This is why they have the dark blue ribbon here. The 375 Electrostars are mainly third rail trains. They run for Southeastern, so they are mainly running in the southeast of London, out of Charing Cross, Victoria, Cannon Street. So that is more where those trains can be found, and running out to the south and to the southeast. There is also one dual voltage version, the Stroke 6. All those we don't have in the game. What we have in the game is the Stroke 9 version, a 4-unit train with 27 units built, and this one is in the game as the blue Electrostar on the southeastern highway. Some of them can be found on the Brighton Main Line, where they run around Victoria. Yeah, the 376 is a train that already was built with Delner couplers. It does not have those gangway caps that you need to put together a long train out of more different train sets, like you can do with the Electrostars and the Brighton Main Line, sometimes 12-car trains with 3 train sets. But this does not work if you don't have the gangway caps. This train is more or less a train that is built for high capacity movement in more suburban areas, like we talked about when running the Capitalstars, big doors, wide gangways, so that people can get in and out quite fast. No toilets. And so this is the high capacity version for suburban operations of the 375 trains that have toilets, that have air conditioning at any rate. I think this one has 2, but I'm not entirely sure. Only one subclass, or, well, one class, 36 units, but you can already see that there are rather a lot of those trains built every time, and if you have 30 train sets with 4 cars, then this is already 120 vehicles that need to be built at Derby Litchurch Lane, and this makes for something to do in the works. The most prominent Electrostar is maybe the 377. That is Southern's bread and butter train. The early stroke of 1 subclasses we don't have. What we have in the game is the 377 stroke 2 from the West Coast Main Line, London Euston and Milton Keynes. It is a dual voltage train set, and so you have to take care that it spawns with the correct setting and have to change it. Maybe switch the pantograph for the shoe. Nakaras is the only thing that remains is the little no, that we already discussed. The 377 stroke 3 that we got in the latest DLC is a third rail only version that runs for Southern, and they actually were converted from 375 stroke 3 units at a time where the 375 units had tight lock couplers and Southern wanted Delna couplers so that they can be rescued with their other trains that have Delna couplers. So those were the first trains actually that got Delna couplers instead of tight lock couplers and were reclassed in the process. Whereas later then all the 375 units without getting reclassed got the Delna couplers. What we have since Brighton Mainline days is the 377 stroke 4 75 train sets active with 4 cars. That is 300. Yeah, this is 300 vehicles that we need to make up for those trains here. Then there is another dual voltage class, the stroke 5. We don't have that. It is running for Southeastern, not for Southern. Some of them are running for Southeastern. And a stroke 6 and a stroke 7 class that we also don't have in the game, that both run for a Southern. Then what we just drove in the stream, in the service on the Mildmay Line, is the Capitalstar, what is the urbanized version of the 377, more or less, called Capitalstar then because it is working at the capital, obviously, and to stress the thing that we are here in a suburban area. Longitudinal seating, big doors, no toilets, short dwelling times at stations. And this is the train that we have in the Mildmay DLC. Had dual voltage too. We used the overhead voltage when we were driving, but you can do third rail as well, unlike the stroke 1 unit that can only do overhead voltage. 5 cars, also a thing to get a lot of people in it. And the stroke 2 units that we have were actually built as stroke 0 units, but then the whole subclass got reclassified after some adjustments. The 379 Electrostar is a train that is also used by Great Northern now. And yeah, has only this one subclass, gangway caps, again for a bit more regional train services. Running out of Liverpool Street, I think, London Liverpool Street. Last Electrostar class that was actually built is the 387. The subclass stroke 1 is operated by a couple of rail operators, train operating companies, especially Heathrow Express and the Great Northern and Heathrow Express train sets have ETCS, what is normal for Aventra trains, but in the Electrostars it was not normal. And sometimes those trains that have the ETCS and the Heathrow Express versions are called the 387 stroke 1A subclass. First time actually I saw that there is a 1A subclass. Never seen that before. And wonder how they do that with the number. Probably not, does not reflect in the numbering. And we don't have it in the game because Trains the World still does not have ETCS. Then there are some versions without the ETCS for the Great Western Railway and Southern. Southern also operates the 387/2 and shares this subclass with the Gatwick Express. And the Gatwick Express we have in the Brighton Main Line DLC with the most modern Electrostar, regenerative braking, CCTV, and all the stuff. The Stroke 3 version is the dual version. 2 Southern and Great Northern have those trains. And after that, Bombardier more or less had the Electrostar succeeded by the Aventra trains. First Aventra train class was built with the class 345, and those trains, and you can see there are a lot of them running, around 70 trains. That's 9 cars. That makes a lot of vehicles to build, and those trains are now used on the Elizabeth Line by GTS Rail Operations, that is running the Elizabeth Line at the moment. And this is what they are doing, and thanks to Lofty we know this is what they are doing at the Litchurch Lane Works at the Derby at the moment, building 10 more of those class 345 trains for the Elizabeth Line. Aventra, compared to Electrostar, is obviously the more advanced concept, with providing for more digital services, CCTV, Wi-Fi, and more. Also predictive maintenance systems, so that the train can tell you what is going to fail soonish, so that we don't have trains failing on road, but they can be maintained before. And all this sophisticated stuff that is great when it works, and it is super annoying is if it doesn't. This is the Aventra class, the only Aventra class that starts with a 3, not with a 7. The other Aventra classes then have 700 numbers, like for example those trains that are built for the London Overground, and this we have in the game, the 110/2 and the 110/3. Both of them are in the game, 4 and 5 car trains, and they are running for London Underground, for example, on the Lioness Line, and for example on the Suffragette Line, the Gospel Oaks to Barking Riverside, and they are there in the game, and you can drive them. It's actually fun driving those trains, and they actually, or apparently, have been used to mimic for the Elizabeth Line trains, and also for the Class 720 Aventras that are working for Greater Anglia in 3 subclasses. The only Aventra train in the line that has its own name is the Arterio, the 701 train that is working for the Southwestern Railway out of Waterloo, if I'm not mistaken. This is where you can find those 701 trains, and here you can see you actually have trains with 10 vehicles, 60 units of them on the market. The 720 have 89 units on the market. Those are a lot of train sets, a lot of vehicles that needed to be built there, but they already have been built and are out of the works. Spectre says Arterio is a quite weird name for a non-medical product. Yeah. Maybe it is supposed to signify that the trains are pumping the blood of life into the capital and out again. But this is the name that they chose for this train. It is a train that has toilets again. It is not one of those suburban trains that is a bit like a subway train without toilets and accommodations. The newest Aventra is the 730. That is the only Aventra from what I've seen on the pictures that has gangway caps again, so that you can put the trains together. So my dummy picture here is actually not accurate. West Midlands trains is operating two subclasses, and here the subclasses, what is quite unique, differ in the maximum speed. Those subclasses are a maximum speed of 90, and the other subclasses for 110. And usually the other Electrostars and Aventras are, most of them are for max speeds between 75 and 100 miles per hour. Okay. And then since 2021, Alstom took over, and all those trains are more or less Bombardier class train concepts. And how this thing works out, what they are going to do in Derby after this under Alstom. Has been talk that they close this work. There has been a plan that they help building the Zafiro trains that are supposed to be used on the high speed 2 line, but there is not the demand at the moment, and Alstom has this Adesia train family concept for the suburban trains, more or less. So we will see what happens there. It's not that long that Alstom is the one who is calling the shots, and building trains is always a thing that takes some time. Yeah, that was a short rundown about the history of electric traction trains built at Derby through the different Electrostar classes and the Aventra classes. We already have a lot of them, quite a lot of them in the game, but there is still more that we can add to fill our sticker book, especially here, as you can see on the more modern ones. End of presentation. And now you got to tell me what we are going to run for the rest of the stream. Should we run an Aventra on the Lioness Line? Should we run a classic Electrostar somewhere else? Still open for suggestions. If not, I will probably go and run an Aventra on the Lioness Line. London Overground, as I said, 6 lines. 2 of them are standalone DLCs in Transcend World. The third line is more or less in the game because we have the West Coast Main Line, Milton Keynes to London Euston. And Across he's fine with Aventra, then everything is good. Then we will... Lioness Line is cool. Then we will get... let's just see what... Maybe we take the Avero timetable, then we can see an Avero running by. So from the Goblin Line, the 17/2 is running on the Lioness Line. Let's have some daylight maybe. Watford Junction to London Euston. Let's just pick a random service and start. Most of the time the Lioness Line is running parallel to the West Coast Main Line. Only the first stop is actually a bit remote, where we are going around a very short loop. Lioness Line was formerly known as the Watford DC line, as compared to the lines with the overhead catenary for the West Coast Main Line, and was then renamed after the English women's soccer team. So let's see if I can start this train. Secure instead of... I think the lights are already on. I don't need to do that. Yes. It still says not in service. Do I have to switch that on? Ah, we have to open the panel first.
TPWS and AWS operational. TPWS and AWS operational.
I see. So that should give us enough points. Why does it say not in service? This is maybe a bug. Kellner couplers, as we can see, still red. Where's my DRA here? Yeah. Nice modern cab. Dark mode screen. Train management system. Don't actually know how much of this works. I never looked at it properly. Also, the only train in the game that closes the doors if you stand about at the platform for too long, and then you lock them before running away. Yes, it looks like a walking cane, you're right. Oh, I should not have closed my doors, since we still have a red light. Good thing that the doors are closing automatically, so it was not actually our fault. Now we've got a green.
TPWS and AWS operational.
What is it that we're starting under? 15? You also have some sort of a traction effort and brake effort indicator here. And yeah, well, what is a great benefit obviously is that you have a big screen where you can see the scenery as compared to the little window of the Electrostar, especially the ones with the gangway cabs. When we're at the signal, we should actually be able to accelerate. See if it got it. Also, one of the benefits of the Aventra over the Electrostar is that they are lighter, so that they can accelerate more easily. Train actually deals with slowing down. So this is the only station on the Lioness Line that is not more or less connected to the West Coast main line. We are a bit late because we did not get out of the station immediately, but had to stop at the red light. Display is very obviously prepared for ETCS. Of course, we got some fog for our troubles. It was here, right? Yes. Now before we get to Boucher, we have to slow down to 20 even. Inspector says dynamic weather does it again. Yes. You should not combine dynamic weather and February. Or March. No, we are already in March. So, I still have to fight to get back on the timetable. Beyond the fence you can already hear the fast trains on the West Coast main line. And we're going to join them very soon. So let's hope the weather stays dynamic and the fog will clear after a while. Windy it is. Take it langsam. Take it easy. And then we can go. Is it 45 here then? Yeah, 45 is the typical speed for the DC line. Before we get to Carpenders Park. going to do a late stop, most probably. With the Capitalstar, you can go the 45 and then stop with brake 2 from about 300 yards and see if that train allows that too. Even more so, as it seems. Here's my marker. As you can see, very short dwelling times. And fast acceleration. And the Aventra class 345 is CD Radar's favorite British train. And let's hope that we get it into Trains and World. The problem is we need not only licensing from the Elizabeth line, but with all the various safety systems that are running on the train. Siemens Train Guard, CBTC, and ETCS, in addition to AWS and TPWS. Pendolino to the left. This will be a challenge. CD Radar says, yeah, imagine getting ETCS and CBTC. Well, the train guard they could also use on the Bernina line. On a modernized version. Also using a train guard safety system as status I-127, if I remember correctly. Hatch end. And I thought I'd be back. We're looking forward to this. Oh, no, I'm actually overshooting my marker a bit because I did not set my brake lever to 2 and was looking away. That is obviously a bad thing to do. Is this the Mildmay Line? No. It is the Lioness Line running alongside the West Coast Main Line between Watford Junction and London Euston. Ah, yes, you're right. I did not change my marker. Unfortunately, you are so correct. Now that you mentioned it, I have to change it. West Coast Main Line, London Euston, Milton Keynes. Here we are. Bingo. Headstone Lane. We still weren't able to fully ascertain how trains like the Aventra here is working with the fourth rail that you can see in the middle of the track here, while a Pendolino is overtaking. A lot of high-speed train traffic on the West Coast Main Line in both directions. Again, I messed up my braking. I still have the sensitivity of the Capitalstar in my muscle memory, as it seems. Still find it funny, says ASR to you, that when this line was created, they didn't figure out the neutral rail could just be the normal rails. This has something to do that the London Underground in the tunnels cannot use, or at least historically could not use, the rails that you're running on as a return path because of all the metal and other stuff that is in the ground, so that you always have short circuits, so that the electricity is going everywhere but not back to the substation along the rails that you're running on. So this is why in the tunnels the London Underground uses a fourth rail as a dedicated return path instead of the rails that you are running on. And this is a skill issue from old engineers. Well, this is if you build undergrounds in under a city that has been a capital for thousands and thousands of people over many centuries. So obviously a lot of stuff ends up in the ground there that you don't necessarily want to have if you're building electrified train lines there. And so trains like the Mark II stock uses this fourth rail as a return path. And this is why on the outside lanes this return path is here as well. So if you have trains like the Aventra here that never goes into a tunnel and uses the third rail for getting the energy in the train, I'm not sure what they are doing in terms of using a return path, whether they are also using the fourth rail or whether the fourth rail is only there for trains like the Mark II that actually need it. Is that normally when you bore a tunnel, the stuff on the ground gets sent away? Well, one charming thing about the London Underground is that it is such a warren of different tunnels and diggings from different eras and everything. I should have stayed with the steam train. Yeah. Underground steam trains has always been a great thing. Now we're actually early here. You can't breathe, stuff is loud, and it is foggy. I can't imagine that experience. Yes, Arterio says, well, yeah. Basically a normal everyday street in London. And Specs says, I think I read somewhere about this on the English Wikipedia about the Lioness Line, but I cannot remember exactly. I think that return is not specifically necessary, and the 710 does not use it. Yeah, maybe they are not using this return path at all. Oh no, I overdid it, I think, with the speed. No, all good. Maybe it is just a dummy fourth rail that is connected with the rails that we are running on, so that trains that have their shoe in the middle for the return path can get the circuit closed. But it's definitely a thing that you need to take care of somehow or the other. Some way or the other. Low emissions zone, yeah. So I would like to have the fog to subside. So that we can see a bit more and not just running in fog all the time. So bust my buffers. Other question is, can they do the regenerative braking with a third rail electricity? Fog is a daily occurrence here now, says City Radar. The last few days have always been extremely dense fog in the mornings and almost summer in the afternoons. Alright. Well, here in our place it has been extremely sunny throughout the whole day in the past days. South Kenton. So we're now on the part of the Watford DC line that we know from the Bakerloo line TLC. This is why we sometimes meet the Mark II tube stock. Is it just wishful thinking, or is the fog actually clearing a bit? Yes, the fog cleared. It was not only wishful thinking. By the way, is it normal that regulations for driving trains, dispatching and a whole lot of stuff is public? Well, it depends. A lot of stuff needs to be public if you are running trains in the European Union, because it is part of the Netzzugangsrelevanten Regelwerk. So that is all the rules and regulations that you need to comply with if you want to run trains off the infrastructure managers network. So if you want to run trains in Germany on DB Infrago's network, you need to know what the DB Infrago is requiring you to do. So those rules need to be public so that everyone who is interested can have a look and figure out what they need to do to be allowed to run trains on a network. So if you have a monopolist or quasi-monopolist network manager like the DB Infrago or Network Rail or ProRail, then actually those rules need to be public somehow. But also rules on the operational side of things, not the drivers. Actually everything that the train operating company needs to comply with. And that can touch things that the driver needs to do, and this can touch things that the train operating company needs to do in terms of organizing their operations. And this is why in Germany and in Austria you can find all those rules very publicly. Not so the directives that the Deutsche Bahn issues for their drivers. Other countries like ProRail in the Netherlands don't do that much. They are more restricting when it comes to publishing their stuff. London Underground, for example, does not publish anything of that kind. The rules and regulations for the Elizabeth Line, the rule book, you can download. So in theory, says ASR to you, if I research on the internet the regulations on building tracks, it should be easy to find. Building tracks, so the Planungsrichtlinien, they typically don't belong to the Netzzugangsrelevanten Regelwerk because train operating companies don't build the tracks. And so is that the planning directives are typically not publicly available. Inspector says, I recall that the Swiss Federal Railways had a problem with games showing the operation of the locos at some point because they were afraid of terrorism, so the practical implementation of the rules themselves. Yes, that is true. That was the SBB and Stadler Rail. I think Matt told us about this on the office meetup. That the representative of Stadler Rail was actually surprised that they wanted to recreate the cap of their train. And we're not happy with this. This led to all this hick-uppy stuff with the Swiss content. And it's probably a reason why we have not seen Swiss content in a while. But as you say, this is not the operational side, but what actually needs to be done to operate the train and how it looks and what switches there are and what levers. Rätische Bahn still fine. Well, yeah. So DTG's ETCS in the game is in a way counter-terrorism, because it is not as it is supposed to be. I mean, yeah, well, yeah. in ASRTO's opinion, it is terrorism. Terrorism against the ERTMS, because it generates terror on drivers. Well, that is, as many things, a complicated matter. In the background there is Wembley Stadium, where the Lionesses won the European Championship. Actually, I don't know the year anymore. But because of that, this line is called the Lioness Line. And all the London Overground lines got their distinctive names. The Princess Royal Distribution Centre to the right. Or is a big distribution centre for mail and parcels. Harlested coming in. In here, ISRTO says we use more practical line names, the usual letter and number. Yeah. That's true for Germany as well. RB 30. U1. Only sometimes they get additional names like Mainfrankenbahn, Franken-Thüringen Express, München-Nürnberg Express. Yeah, it says where to be, where to where, that is true. But well, in London with the Underground you have the tradition of using quite catchy names. What is quite cool, to be honest. Like the Loo line, yes. Like the Baker Loo line. At any rate, I like it. City and Hammersmith. Other way around, like Hammersmith and City. Willesden. And now we close the circuit in a way, because now we are here where we started our journey on the Mildmay Line. See? Those are the stops for the Mildmay trains, and we started here at this signal and ran off towards Gospel Oaks. Can we see it here? Ah. Here, this is the Mildmay Line going out. We can't see is the Great Western Express line coming from Paddington. It's in this DLC, you can see it. The name of the line is longer than the line itself. Wrong line, Waterloo and City Line. I see. You see, if it was just line 1 and line 2, I wouldn't mistake them. It might be. But it is definitely catchier this way. I always love traveling on the Victoria Line. Coming from Stansted. Both have and City. Yeah. That is a bit weird, right? You could just call it the Hammersmith Line or the Waterloo Line. That it must be somehow associated with the city is quite obvious. Just call them all and city. So, to the right is cemetery, Kensal Green Cemetery that I talked about. City Radar says, wait, does the Hammersmith and City Line even go to the city? I guess this depends on what you're... Here's an Aveiro. What do you want to call the city? The City of London. So you mean the inner mile? Probably not. Only meanders through Greater London. The one weird district that it is its own country. Not own country, own county, I think. Something like this, the City Radar. Arterio, I still find it funny that there's London and a part of London is the City of London. Can't they be more confusing? Well, There is Mexico, there is Mexico City, there is Rome, and there is Vatican City. Gotta go, Spectre. See you next time. Bye, guys. Bye, Spectre. But Mexico is a country, so say it not you. That is true. Undeniably so. That's easy. So a country can have a city with the same name, but a city cannot have a city with the same name. The City of London is a part of London. It's getting even more confusing. The City of London is actually not a part of the Greater London area. If I'm not mistaken, then the City of London does not belong to the Greater London area. It is the inner, yes, it is in the center. It's its own county, and then you have the Greater London area that is not a county, but one of those special conurbation areas, right? Had I known that we are doing English municipality law, I would have prepared that. Metropolises. It's definitely where this is all going. Kilburn High Road is next. It has its own Lord Mayor in government. Yes. Square mile. Oh no, I wish. So now we are on a part of the line that is no longer in the Bakerloo line because at Queen's Park all the Bakerloo trains vanish into the ground. And then there's the different boroughs, which, depending on what you're talking about, they are different. Yes, the boroughs are in the Greater London area. This is made up of different boroughs, if I'm correct. They can easily remove taxes from politicians, they say, okay. This I actually don't know how the different boroughs and the counties can levy taxes. Unfortunately, not everything is as easy as it is in Spain. The fourth rail is gone, yeah, because the trains are underground. What's easier in Spain, you say? No, this was actually sarcasm. I actually once had the pleasure of listening to a lecture about Spanish inheritance law and inheritance taxation law. And it is hard to think that anything can be more complicated and weird as that. With all the different laws for different municipalities in Spain and regions and everything. Semi-autonomous areas. Oops. Why did I go into shutdown?
TPWS and AWS
So,
operational.
next up is already London Euston. We have to go through all those tunnels here. And then prepare for the arrival at London Euston. Limit to 30 is here for the tunnel. Our headlights are actually lighting up the tunnel nicely. All I know, says Azart, is that in my semi-autonomous region we are the only ones with some type of inheritance tax. Is that so? So, and now we're actually on a track that we know from the West Coast Main Line. And we're coming in and can go 50 starting at this sign again. Sent to line B. Signal cleared. At the end of the tunnel we have to be down to 40 if I'm not mistaken. At the next gantry we have to be at 25, or is the last signal before we hit Euston. Line B, as indicated on the gantry, we're going to platform 9. And the Pendolino coming out of London Euston like an oversized worm. Not a lot Averos to be seen, but a lot of Pendolinos waiting here at London Euston. So, now I'm slowing down to 15 because of the Moorgate protection. Since we're approaching a buffer block, we typically pass a special set of TPWS transponders that control us to a speed of 15. When approaching, here they are. Can you see them? The short grids. And they typically stop you if you're faster than 15. So that you don't pass the buffer block with a release speed of 40. Here we are. 1 second late. Yes, I saw. If I saw that correctly, it actually made it exactly on the time. Yeah, that was that. Trains from Derby, Electrostar wise and Aventra wise, they are said to have built about 2,700 vehicles for those two lines. That means powered cars, unpowered cars, everything. So no wonder that they are almost ubiquitous in the UK, especially in the areas around London. See, a cool trick would be to run over them so they hit you and you would stop exactly where you need to be stopped. That would be actually cool. But most of the passengers who already get up so that they can be the first out of the train would probably fall on their noses then. And we would have a lot of claims coming in with our legal department. Anyway, thank you so much for staying with me, for the ongoing support, and we will see what we do next week and next Sunday. At some point we will have SimRail again, but let's wait until we get the release date for the Czech route, and then we will have at least 2 streams about signaling and safety systems, even if on the route in question there will not be so super much in terms of safety systems. But enough so that we can talk about it. Guys, have the greatest of time. Make the best out of your lives. Take care. Be nice to each other and see you soon. Czech route, SimRail or Transworld. Perfect. Have a nice week. Good night. Thank you.